This is Wyoming, well known for its vistas, its resources, and particularly its wildlife. This rugged state has the least people and perhaps the most wild game of any state. It is nothing short of a hunter's paradise. The open range stretches for miles with undulating hills and brushy draws, offering prime habitat for pronghorns, mule deer, and of course, whitetails. These species set the stage for one of the finest combination hunts you'll find anywhere. September brings the opportunity to break out your archery gear and come chase both deer and antelope in the country surrounding Devil's Tower in eastern Wyoming.
Most people, when you mention Wyoming, they think of elk or mule deer, but it is a hotbed for whitetails. And there's lots of people that really need to reach out and discover it.
Our host is Trophy Ridge Outfitters. And once you see their great room, you come to understand why they chose the name. Ralph Dampman is not only the owner, but also the taxidermist behind these jaw-dropping mounts. We'll go behind the scenes of this work later in the show. But first, as always, the hunt begins at the shooting range.
Well, we're in the blind this afternoon. We're going to start our antelope and deer hunt tomorrow, but I always like to practice the way I'm going to hunt, and we're hunting out of a blind in the morning, so I'm going to practice shooting out of a blind. If we're hunting out of a tree stand at all for deer, we have a tree stand set up, I'll also be practicing that. It just gives you good reminders to make sure that you have clearance on windows, good field of view, and limb clearance. Of course, I'm sitting back here, but it gives you a real good check before you actually go out and hunt. So, using the Steady Eddie, this actually works very well as a rest. You can sit on it. It steadies it right up. Take the safety off. There it is. And it's one of those scenarios where you're not going to shoot the first one that comes in because you're always going to hold out and wait for a bigger one. And at first I thought I was going to pass that one, but then when he turned sideways, I knew that I had to give it a shot. And thank goodness he gave me some time. He put on a bit of a show for us, did some talking and grunting and looking around for the ladies. And started rubbing the side of his face and his glands on the sagebrush. Marking his territory, of course, and I let an arrow fly. I shot a great buck. A really good old, heavy horned, lots of mass, lots of extra little junk on him. Couldn't ask for a better pronghorn with a 10-point crossbow. It was a great experience.
Look at that gnarly old buck. Oh my goodness. That is just ridiculous. He has junk all over the place. Beautiful. Exit right where you want it. I don't think he went 25 yards. I think everyone comes out here antelope hunting thinking, oh, I'm gonna hold out, I'm gonna look at a bunch of antelope, try to shoot a big one. Well, this is the first buck we had come in, and there was no way I was letting him go. Look at the character on this old boy. He has got a gnarly set of horns with lots of junk out the back and the sides. He's got great cutters, great mass. What a great archery antelope. The 10-point Stealth NTX really did a great job. So that was a great start to the week and a great way to experience Wyoming, where there's more antelope than people.
Since he has a double tag, Brad will now turn his attention to whitetails. But for those hunters who finish early, this area offers a unique challenge just down the road from Trophy Ridge. Believe it or not, you can climb Devil's Tower.
Well, we're here at the base of Devil's Tower National Monument. I've been here 19 years. We run a bed and breakfast for those folks passing through, and we also offer a rock climbing guide service because there's this big chunk of rock in our backyard. And not only does it attract guests from across our country, but from around the world. And if you listen to the movies, actually, we've got our share of extraterrestrials. And I invite you to come along, whether you climb or whether you hunt, whether it's tiddlywinks, knitting, or even quilting. We've had them all. Come, visit, breathe the air, feel the power. I promise your life will be changed, or dessert's free.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Browning Trail Cameras, by Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker, by Sevr Broadheads, straight through it, and by Remington, America's oldest gunmaker. Coming up.
Well, we're basically hunting over deer candy tonight. You can see the alfalfa is extremely green. Getting into the fall, all the vegetation, the native vegetation hardens off. It gets coarse for the animals to eat.
When Destination Whitetail returns.
Well, we're here with Trophy Ridge Outfitters. They offer a combination hunt for the early archery seasons. And we started off sitting in a blind the first morning for antelope, and I shot a great buck. What a great archery antelope. After the pronghorn antelope hunt, we went right to work on our deer hunt. And, you know, the outfitter here has lots of different stands. There's blinds and tree stands, good situations. They've got them really well scouted, which is what you're looking for in a guided hunt. Someone to do the legwork for you. Well, we're basically hunting over deer candy tonight. You can see the alfalfa is extremely green. Getting into the fall, all the vegetation, the native vegetation hardens off. It gets brown. It gets coarse for the animals to eat. Of course, the alfalfa, it's a second or third cut. The first cut is woody. Each cut afterwards becomes more succulent, and the deer know it. They know how to find it. It's like a magnet for them. We got pines and high ridges around us. Those bucks go up high in bed in the wind where it's a bit cooler. They work their way down to these food plots or the alfalfa in the evening. So fingers crossed. The food's here. The deer are definitely here. It's just with the wind and the placement tonight, whether we're in the exact right spot. The wind has been a challenge this week. Wyoming probably 99% of the time has west or northwest winds, and we had east and southeast and some south winds, which didn't work well for a lot of stands, but of course there's enough here that we did find places to hunt. We're up in the old oak tree tonight, hoping that the bucks we've seen using this barley field come back out. There's at least 3 or 4 really good shooter bucks. They've been working their way off this ridge. There's some water in the creek here below us. They normally stop and water and then come out into the stubble where they've been feeding. Some of the barley's resprouting. Looks like there's some quackgrass and some other green in there that they're also picking up. So lots of food, lots of variety, lots of deer. We just got to hope that this wind stays good for us. We're supposed to get a southeast wind, which should be going this way. And right now it's swirling and coming back up the hill. So we'll have to see if we can make this work. And it wasn't 3 minutes I said, this isn't working. The wind is right out on the road, but where we were sitting on the ridge, it was swirling around and taking our scent right up the hill, right up the trail that those deer would be coming from. And if we'd have sat there, we'd have educated them and blown them out. And not only we wouldn't have had a chance, but we wouldn't have had a chance to go back in the future. So we opted to go sit in a blind on a funnel where the deer were coming out to a double barley field. And man, did we get a show that night. Made a quick change, and deer hunters that think on the move often score. We knew there were deer here, we know where they're coming out, so we set up a pop-up blind. Our evening hunt isn't ruined. We're not going to educate the deer back in that prime spot. We know there's big deer here. We got just as good a chance of shooting a big one, so put the odds in your favor. Don't educate your deer, and make a move if you need to. If that's what it takes, get her done. We didn't see the big boy, but we saw a tremendous amount of really nice looking 2.5-year-old deer and maybe a couple 3.5-year-old deer that
sported lots of white stuff up top.
Most any evening at all, you're still going to see multiple bucks. Ideal conditions, you know, any one of these type of fields, there should be 30 to 40 bucks any night.
As we mentioned before, Ralph Dampman not only owns and manages the hunting operations, he's also a taxidermist with a shop on site. The process begins in the salt room.
This here is an antelope cape that I did yesterday. It's in the salt. You can see the salt is doing its work where it's sucking all the blood and the moisture out of the hide. This is a whitetail, and you can tell it's got real short hair yet for September, but it's doing the same thing. The salt's sucking the moisture out of the hide, and then they'll hang up and they'll turn into, these are 2 antelope that were done a week ago, and they're just solid. You still got salt hanging on them, you know, but that's the way they get when they're dry. They're hard.
Hides like these will eventually be decorative mounts and sometimes decoys.
I'd like you to meet Brad. This is actually the buck I shot last year, and Ralph made a life-size decoy out of it, and they've actually tried him out this year, and it worked exceptionally well. I've got some incredible photos of other bigger bucks coming right up to it, but you're looking for a lifelike decoy, you can't beat a real skin.
Been a pretty quiet morning, very still, there's not much wind, but there's always hope. Not a lot of water in this area. We're hunting a water source this morning, so we're hoping a big buck will stop in for a drink before he goes to bed for the day. It's still supposed to be pretty warm today, so they're gonna need to drink.
And we had a great morning. There was lots of activity, lots of deer. Got to see lots of behavior and social interaction between them. So it was a fun morning. We didn't get that big buck to come in, but we saw lots of deer. We set up right, and I would definitely come and sit back here and again.
Don't go away.
Been going through a bit of a drought here in this part of Wyoming. Things are really dry, but we brought rain with us, I think.
Antler King, makers of the world's best food plot products, providing the highest protein and the most tonnage. But most importantly, deer love Antler King food plots. Antler King, bigger bucks, healthier deer.
Well, we've been waiting for this all week, but tonight we finally got the wind we've been waiting for. We've had a lot of rain, so we're really hoping they're gonna flood off the hills tonight, right down through this gate in front of us and into the alfalfa field. It's a prime setup. The other day we had to set up further down the field because of the wind. We got our fingers crossed we're right down to the wire on this one.
They had been going through a bit of a drought here in this part of Wyoming. Things were really dry, but we brought rain with us, I think. Arrow made good contact. You could hear the thud. I can actually see the arrow laying in the field here, so a good pass through. This is the part that always drives you crazy, makes you nervous. You know, I'm not second guessing the shot, but we haven't recovered the deer, and that's always the ultimate goal for everyone when they're bow hunting or hunting deer of any kind. So we're gonna give him a bit of time. Gonna go out here, check the arrow, have a look. We do have some blood here. We followed these tracks where he's been kicking up. He was running fast, so it was easy to find his hoof mark with the dew claws with this mud from the rain. And of course it's raining now, so we're trying to find the blood fairly quick. And unfortunately we didn't find him yet tonight. We're gonna let him sit overnight and see if we can't recover him in the morning. Just one drop at a time in the wet grass. It was painstaking. We stayed on it, had a stick, put it in as a marker. We'd find the next spot, We spent several hours doing that and tracked that buck for several hundred yards across a big open flat on top of one of these ridges. As they continued to look for the blood, I worked all the way back and forth as I was coming down. Got to this last ridge, I looked down along the river and saw a couple magpies. So we came over here, can lift my binos, I can see a deer carcass over there. Finally get to see him. Oh, there he is. Beautiful Wyoming whitetail. Oh, I just wish I could have found him a little quicker. Anyways, the 10-point did get it done. It was a great hunt. I hope to come back and visit Ralph and Lenore again next year at Trophy Ridge. I mean, every time I come here, I have a great experience, and it's a very special place.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by the Burris Oracle Laser Range-Finding Bow Sight. Burris, find what matters. By Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry technology. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. And by Mathews Archery. Coming up, the debut of a new feature, DeerTech TV.
Loaded with innovative features, the Recon Force 4K camera features true 4K Ultra HD video recording capability, as well as the ability to capture images up to 32 megapixels. It has a built-in 2-inch color display for user-friendly setup and ease of viewing images in the field.
When Destination Whitetail returns. This is DeerTech TV, the best in outdoor technology. Powered by Browning Trail Cameras.
Hey everyone, it's mid-April. We're here in central Wisconsin, and it's time for some spring scouting. Now, it may not look like spring here with all of the snow on the ground, but that's not stopping the deer from coming out, so it can't stop me either. Let's take a look at one of the new tools I have to help me scout. I'm talking about the Recon Force 4K trail camera from Browning Trail Cameras. Loaded with innovative features, the Recon Force 4K camera features true 4K Ultra HD video recording capability, as well as the ability to capture images up to 32 megapixels. It has a built-in 2-inch color display for user-friendly setup and ease of viewing images in the field. Additionally, it features Smart IR video, which continues to record video footage while game is moving in front of the camera. An impressive infrared LED illumination at night, high clarity video sound, and it supports up to 512 gigabyte memory cards. That's a lot of content. Now I'm going to show you quickly how I set up my camera. Okay, now date and time is already set up. As you can see, there's photo and video settings here. I personally like video because I like to watch the deer's behavior, movement, all kinds of things. So let's get that set up. We're going to go into the video length. I personally like 10 seconds. Not too short, not too long. Video quality. As you can see, you have other options for video quality. I'm going to go with 4K because with this camera, why would you go with anything less? And now let's get to the camera name. Last thing I like to do when setting up a camera is give it a name. All right, I'm going to name this camera Loc 1 for location 1. All right, we're all done programming, so let's go get it on a tree. All right, you guys probably think I'm a little bit nuts putting this camera up this high, but there's a ridge back here, and to be able to see the deer, we need it a little higher. Now the last step, let's get the scent off. and turn this thing on. And that's the Recon Force 4K Ultra HD camera by Browning Trail Cameras.